This video is brought to you by Verve. For limited time, get a 30-day free trial of ad-free viewing for 12 amazing channels by clicking the link in the description below. Hey everyone, Gaijin Goombah here, and today—
Wait. Haven't we covered this topic like a dozen times already? First we said the Triforce came from the Hojo clan crest, the Mitsuuroko, then said it was based off of ancient Norse and Celtic mythos, then not 2 months later said it was based on Christianity. So which is it?
Trust me, I understand this is a road we've traveled down so many times we've practically paved over it, but as Breath of the Wild shook up so many tropes and norms of the Zelda franchise, so too has it shaken up many of my theories. I mean, look, there's no doubt that the Triforce was inspired by the Hojo clan's crest, and there's absolutely no denying the numerous Celtic and Christian inspirations Zelda has taken into its own. But one small change, one minor inclusion in Breath of the Wild has me throwing all my research out the window and going right back to square one.
What the heck could have caused that?
Dragons. As part of a handful of side quests, Breath of the Wild introduces 3 dragons that act as emissaries to the 3 goddesses that created Hyrule. Dinral for Din, Naydra for Nehru, and Feyrosh for Feyrior. The dragons also act as guardian spirits to the 3 springs associated with each goddess as well, the springs of power, wisdom, and courage. In fact, those quests I mentioned earlier has you dipping scales from each of the 3 dragons into the springs in order to access additional shrines.
But what does all that have to do with the Triforce?
It harkens back to our very first theory, the Triforce taking inspiration from the Hojo clan crest, the Mitsuuroko. The visual evidence is obviously there, but do you recall exactly how the Hojo got their crest?
Sure, it's an old story taken from the book of Taiheki, the Chronicle of the Great Peace back in 1319. One day, the first ever Hojo region of the Kamakura shogunate named Hojo Tokimasa undertook a pilgrimage to Enoshima, an island about 4 miles outside of Kamakura itself. While in the cave of Iwaya, he prayed to Benzaiten, one of the 7 great gods of fortune, to grant prosperity to his clan. Surprising Tokimasa, Benzaiten actually appeared to him, saying that since he was a priest in a previous life, he and his clan would be granted fortune and rule over all of Japan. After Tokimasa accepted, Benzaiten turned and withdrew back into the ocean from where she came. But as she slipped under the waves, Tokimasa saw the flickering of a dragon's tail from under her clothing, and in the sand were left 3 beautiful dragon scales. This became the symbol of the Hojo clan as the family ruled over the country for over 100 years.
Starting to ring a bell, isn't it?
Yeah. Just as Benzaiten left 3 scales in her departure after blessing Hojo Tokimasa, so did the goddesses leave the Triforce behind when they had finished building and blessing Hyrule, both of which have identical symbolism. And the dragons, those are also avatars of Benzaiten.
Exactly. Benzaiten was originally conceptualized from Saravati, the Hindu goddess of water. Brought over to Japan from China around the 7th century, Benzaiten was not only deemed one of the 7 lucky gods of fortune, but also the goddess of several other concepts: learning, music, poetry, speech, wealth, longevity, but most importantly, water. Benzaiten was the goddess capable of ending both drought and deluge, which made her the ruler of the element. As for dragons, in both Chinese and Japanese mythos, dragons were spirits of large bodies of water, from lakes to rivers to even parts of the ocean itself. And just like the goddesses of Hyrule, who have their own emissaries in the mortal world in the form of these 3 great dragons, Benzaiten's avatars and messengers were also serpentine dragons. And you can't tell me Hyrule's dragons don't have any association with the Far East. I mean, just listen to their theme music. And if you still aren't convinced, Feyrosh itself rises out of the east side of Lake Hylia. Now on top of all of this, while Benzaiten has several small shrines and places of worship all over Japan, there are specifically 3 great shrines devoted to her, also known as the Nihon Sandai Benten. Those being the aforementioned Enoshima Shrine at Sagami Bay, Chikubushima Shrine on Lake Biwa in Shiga Prefecture, and Miyajima Shrine off of Itsukushima Island near the southern tip of Honshu where the Great Torii stands. 3 shrines, 2 associated with the ocean and 1 with a lake. Now on the flip side, not only do the goddess springs of power, courage, and wisdom have their own body of water and house 3 great shrines, like the Nihon Sandai Benten, 2 of them are located extremely close to the ocean and 1 to a lake. The Spring of Wisdom being just inside the Afromisa coast, the Spring of Power being just inside the East Akala beach, and the Spring of Courage being just a stone's throw away from Lake Hylia. 3 shrines, 3 bodies of water. 3 shrines, 3 bodies of water.
Well, hang on a sec, there's a critical thing missing here. It is incredibly eerie that so many aspects of the origin of the Triforce and the origin of the Mitsuuroko run parallel, but Benzaiten is still only one goddess, while the golden goddesses who made Hyrule were 3 separate entities. If Nintendo truly pulled the creation of the Triforce from the creation of the Hojo crest, how would you explain the Trinity symbolism?
Well, for a while I thought the Nihon Sandai Benten was the connecting factor between the 3 golden goddesses and Benzaiten. But while researching those 3 shrines, I tripped on the one thing that could solidly connect Benzaiten to the Trinity motif. At Enoshima Shrine, on the island where the origin of the Hojo clan crest and theoretically the Triforce takes place, Benzaiten wasn't originally the goddess who was housed there. The first kami that were enshrined there were known as the Munakata Sanjoshin, aka the 3 female kami of Munakata. To put it simply, they were island kami cited in the Nihon Shoki of the 8th century who were basically created from the sun goddess Amaterasu after she bit her brother Susanoo's sword, chewed it up, and spat it out.
What?
I honestly have no idea. Apparently this was a trial by oath. But anyway, the 3 goddesses that were created from this trial were Ichikishima Hime, Taigitsu Hime, and Tagori Hime. While the 3 were triplets of Amaterasu, Ichikishima Hime was the most powerful and most important to the Munakata trio, to a point where in various shrines dedicated to the 3, she may appear alone, but in essence represents all 3. Now as time went by and China began to have more and more influence over Japan, in the 12th century, Benzaiten was actually integrated into native Shinto as the incarnation of Ichikishima Hime. Whether or not she was Benzaiten all along or was just shoehorned into the position as Buddhism began to grip Japan is still up for debate. Regardless of how Ichikishima became Benzaiten, this connection associates her not only with a trinity of gods, but a trinity of powerful goddesses.
What about the Triforce's great power, the ability to grant any wish to whomever touches it? Benzaiten had the power to grant wishes as we see in the tale of Tokimasa, but that was her, not an item.
Well, that too has an esoteric answer. Benzaiten, having gone through so many iterations and mergers with other deities in India, China, and Japan, had developed several other different forms. Some of them have her with several arms, some of them have her playing a biwa, but in many paintings and statues of the iteration known as Dai Benzaiten, she's holding a sword in her right hand and a peach-shaped jewel in her left. The sword in her right hand is known as a Diken, a symbol of wisdom, a weapon that crushes evil, and a tool that slashes away ignorance, and don't that sound familiar? But on her left hand sits the Hojo, a gem that houses all of the wisdom and splendor of the Buddha's teachings, which would grant anyone any wish that they desired. While in many artistic renditions the Hojo is made up of a single golden jewel, a great many other depict the Hojo, the wish-granting jewel, as a trifecta of these jewels stacked on top of each other. 3 golden jewels said to grant any wish.
So with all these things considered, the story of the Mitsuuroko and the connection to Benzaiten, her connection to the dragons, a trinity of goddesses, and a stack of 3 jewels said to grant wishes, are you saying we finally cracked the origin behind the Triforce?
I honestly wish I could say yes, we're so close. There's so much evidence in this revelation. But just as the story of Zelda unfolds and evolves, so too does its inspiration and lore. In the years that I've been trying to finally put this cultural theory to bed, I've begun to come to the realization that we may never know the truth. Nintendo has been and likely will always be an esoteric company where its creators take inspiration from all aspects of culture and life, big and small, and spin them into brand new stories and characters. And in an admittedly defeatist way, I'm kind of okay with that. I'm okay with the secrets, I'm okay with the intrigue. It's fun to try and discover the answers for ourselves regardless if we find truth or not. But everything comes from something, and that's what made Zelda so intriguing to me. Its characters, its story, its locations, but especially its Triforce. But thanks for watching everyone, and a big thank you to this video sponsor Verve, and I mean it. These guys have been long-time supporters of my content, and I legitimately enjoy what they have to offer. See, Verve is an online streaming platform you can get on Xbox, PlayStation, iOS, Android, and PC, where you get access to 12 great channels of content like Crunchyroll, Funimation, Rooster Teeth, Geek and Sundry, and Mondo. Verve Premium members on mobile can sync episodes ahead of time for offline viewing. No net connection needed. We're talking about shows like Pop Team Epic, Harmon Quest, Dragon Ball Super, Cyanide and Happiness, and Darling in the Franxx. Man, I really need to do a video on that show sometime. But anyway, if you want to check out these shows and movies that Verve has to offer for yourself, you can head on over to vrv.co/gaijin for a limited time 30-day free trial. That's vrv.co/gaijin. And let me know what you guys suggest I watch next. Otherwise, be sure to check out my other content on my channel. YouTube has pretty much come forward in saying that if you don't click that bell, you likely won't be notified of new videos unless you're pretty active. So the best way to help the show is to keep watching. As long as you do, I'll never stop creating. So thanks everyone, and until next time, this is Gaijin Goombah signing out.